co-sponsor this debate with the Lowell Sun tonight for the candidates for representative in the 18th Middlesex District. I want to recognize our Chancellor who is here with us tonight, at least initially as a spectator, Chancellor Marty Bean. All of us are very proud of our new facility here. University Crossing just opened. Some of you were here during the primary debate and got a good look at it. Some of you were here for our opening in September. As I say, we're quite proud of this building. It is sort of the center of the campus now, where students gather on a routine basis for our meetings, and the advising, all the student services are in here. But it's also a community building. It's a building for you. We have the cafe on the first floor. If you haven't visited yet, please recommend that you do so. The store, which is called a bookstore, but is much more than that, on the first floor, is open to everyone as well. And we encourage you, if you can't come tonight, come some other time. There's free visitor parking next door. Just don't come at 5 o'clock like tonight with traffic on the bridge. But hopefully that'll be resolved soon. Maybe the candidates might have something to say about that. Without further ado, I want to actually do one sort of piece of housekeeping, and it's more than that, really, because I'm sure if you don't know, most of you do, but we lost a great public figure in Massachusetts earlier today. We were fortunate about a year ago at this time to have former Boston Mayor Tom Medino here on campus. He was a great supporter of the university. He was a great public official who served 20 years as Mayor of Boston, and he'll be sorely missed by all of us. I know you feel the same here in Lowell as well as they do in Boston across the country. So I'd like to ask everybody if we could please have a moment of silence for Thomas. Thank you. So, to get started, tonight, to introduce the candidates and the panel, and moderating tonight's debate is the Enterprise Editor of the Lowell Sun, Chris Scott. Welcome, Chris Scott. Thanks, Rick.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming out tonight. I'll start by just introducing the candidates. Closest to me is Fred Babu. Fred's a longtime resident of the Highlands, as many of you know, runs a popular convenience store out there. He's been a member of the Greater Lowell Tech School Committee for a number of terms. Frank, thanks for coming out. Fred, I'm sorry.
Great to be here, Chris. Thank you very much.
And next to Fred, obviously, is Roddy Mom. Roddy Mom is a graduate of the Tech. And has a popular business in Couple Square in the heart of the Highlands doing chiropractor.
Therapy, not chiropractic.
Okay. I stand corrected. And the panelists, Tom Zuber is my colleague in the newsroom. Tom is the assistant managing editor for Days. Tom, thanks for being here tonight. You all know Frank. And to Frank's left is Mary Jo Griffin from Middlesex Community College, and a good friend of the newspaper, and she will serve as our third panelist tonight. So I'd like to just take care of a couple of house-cleaning matters first. Candidates will be given 2 minutes to respond. Then the other candidate will get a minute to rebut. The moderator has the discretion to let them kind of go back and forth if I see something developing. We'll flip a coin to see who gets the first question. The candidate who does not get the first question then has the opportunity to deliver the first closing statement, or that candidate can defer, make it last like Bill Belichick would. There is no opening statement. Okay? So why don't I just flip the coin now to just one other matter. The second debate that was going to happen tonight between Mara Healy and John Miller, the candidates for Attorney General, is not happening, primarily due to Tom Medino's death. John Miller will be here, and he'll make a few remarks. So following this debate, if you all want to stick around and hear what John Miller has to say and what he can bring to the Attorney General's office, you're welcome to do that. He may even take some questions from the audience. I don't know. So with that, we'll just flip the coin and then we can get going. Okay, guys, call it? Sure. What'd you get?
50-50. I'll take it. I'm going to defer my call to Roddy.
Heads.
Tails. No. So, you going to take the first question, Roddy?
Yes.
Put it back in the list and change it. All right, so Tom, why don't you start with the first question for Roddy?
Okay, Mr. Mom, first of all, both candidates, thank you for being here this evening. Mr. Mom, you've been very careful during this campaign to not wade deeply into a lot of the issues about the district or state politics. And I think you said often that when you are up at the state on Duke, you listen to your constituents and learn on the job. Do you think state representatives should have stands on the issues going into office, or do you think that he should be learning on the job?
Well, I believe that in our district, the job of each individual elected official is to listen and, of course, to represent the whole district. What is the concern of the citizen? That's a job.
Fred, you have a minute to respond?
Okay, right, thanks.
Okay, moving quickly.
Yes.
Next question to Fred Bobby.
For just about, and actually for both candidates, right? We're starting with this one. Massachusetts is widely considered to be a national leader on education, but the state support for public education, particularly public higher education, does not match that reputation, unfortunately. From 2001 to 2013, only 6 of the 50 states cut public higher education by more than Massachusetts did. What would be your legislative agenda in regard to public higher education?
I think public higher education is one of the things we can do to move colleges and community colleges forward, as well as our college students. And to go ahead and move it forward, me being a member of the Greater Lowell Tech, I've really developed a firm belief in that we should be using our vocational schools with our community colleges as well as with our universities. As far as our vocational schools go, I have been created a rally cry about this, and I know Middlesex Community College just went ahead and joined us in an effort to teach metal fabrication with them, with us simultaneously. So they're having their students come to our building and learn metal fab. With that being the case, we can go ahead and get students job ready with vocational programming. The other thing that we could go ahead and do is try to offer more scholarships. And I think the way to offer more scholarships to students is by looking at our budget, looking at our $1.8 billion in extra rainy day funds, and start offering college education to people that really can't afford it and don't know that they can qualify for a loan or ever be able to pay it back.
Right.
Thank you, Frank. As a graduate of the Daily School, vocational school, and Middlesex Community College, I understand the value of education. When we talk about higher education, we have this beautiful campus right here in our district, which is the 18th Middlesex district. I will fight for Chapter 10, Chapter 70, to make sure we have the funding that is adequate for our school. I will ask to be on the Committee of Education. Should I get to Beacon Hill, I will go and fight for the 18th Middlesex district and the entire city of Lowell. That's what I will do.
Mary Jo, a question for Mr. Bob?
Would that be, excuse me, would that be Mr.
I think it's Mr. Mom.
No, Roddy, you finished your answer, correct?
My one question. I believe we're alternating. Roddy had the first question.
Yeah, he just.
I didn't rebut, and then I had the second question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Terrific. Thank you.
It's for both of you. What do you feel is the biggest difference between yourself and your opponent? Yes.
First of all, well, for start, I know that, first of all, I congratulate Fred and for both of us putting our name on the ballot. It's very tough. We all want the best thing. And I have a proven record that I've been involved in the community for over 20 plus years already. Whether it's involved with the Boys and Girls Club or in the Uncle Dance Group, which connected to the youth to teach them about culture, building relationship, building leadership. That's what I got to stand on as a small businessman. I work on one-to-one basis to serve the community, to help. I help people every day in my life work. I'm so proud to have the opportunity right here in the 18th Middlesex District in our great city of Lowell. I'm proud of that.
But how is that different from your opponent?
I guess that's what I do as my job, to serve the people.
How am I different from Mr. Ma? I've been in the district all my life. I've invested in the district regularly. I was a paper boy in the district, and I was a person that raked leaves in the district. I was a person that has coached baseball in the district. I'm a person that played baseball and basketball in the district, coached basketball in the district as well. I've invested in 5 properties in the district. I've rehabbed a property on 254 Foster Street, which is where my children, my wife live, or my former wife. And I've rehabbed the house on 251 Foster Street and sold it, and really helped that neighborhood spruce up because it sold at a very low price, and I think a lot of the neighbors were worried that it may sell for too low a price and it could damage the neighborhood. I purchased a home on 772 Westford Street and rehabbed that, and unfortunately it was during the mortgage crisis, or the plummeting of real estate values, and I took a pretty large hit on that. And I purchased another house on Gibson Street. Oh, okay.
You can finish your thought.
Okay, but at the end of the day, I mean, I come job ready. I was elected twice by people in the city of Lowell, and I sit on many different committees at the Green Lowell. So.
Thanks, Frank. Tom Zucker with a question for Mr. Bachman.
Mr. Bachman, which is more important to the district, Chapter 78 or Chapter 98?
Well, that's a very good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure with Chapter 78 or 98.
7.
Chapter 70. Oh, 70. Well, I'm a firm believer in education. I think that Chapter 70 is what covers our municipal government, and it is something that really moves our school districts forward. And I think that it's something that we need in order to go ahead and progress our cities. So if I were to choose between Chapter 70 and Chapter 90, I would choose Chapter 70 just because of the educational value that it offers our cities and towns.
Roddy, you want to take a crack at that one?
The question is the difference between chapter.
Which do you think is more important to the district?
Well, quite honestly, I know that education is one of the most important factors for all of our family and our children. So I definitely said Chapter 70 is definitely very, very important to make sure that all of our children get educated.
Frank,
Can I just ask a follow-up question, sir?
Sure thing.
What's Chapter 90?
Chapter 90 is for Bridge and Road.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Frank, you have a question for Mr. Bachman?
I do, thanks, Chris. Lowell City Manager Kevin Murphy and Chancellor Marty Meehan met with almost 200 students, faculty, and staff from the university earlier this week, day before yesterday, I think it was, right here in this room, to discuss the topic of how Lowell might become an even more vibrant college town. What proposals would you make that would further that goal as representative of the 18th Middlesex District?
I think, first of all, the university to be here in our great city is amazing. I applaud the Chancellor for the work that he put forward to build an amazing campus. We are a college town, and I'm excited. I will do everything that I would possibly to make sure that our college continue to grow, and I will support any funding that I can bring back from Beacon Hill to make sure our college is affordable for all of the residents of the 18th Middlesex and the entire city of Lowell.
Mr. Bachman?
Developing, the college has developed. So what would be something that I would focus on? I would say a few things, small businesses, me being a small business owner. I know there are a lot of people that are unemployed, or our unemployment rate is fairly high. Many people like to have the idea that they could go ahead and start a small business. And I think starting a small business is important. And I think it's one of those things that if you could go ahead and get people to begin to work for themselves, it would be something that they could grab onto, and they could, have a great teaching tool towards other people in their family and in their community. I think to develop the downtown would be a great place to start. I think there would be a great need for a Trader Joe's downtown. Or, somebody said to me the other day, they said, hey, how about Chipotle? And I'm like, yeah, Chipotle, Five Guys. I think those things are what the college town could go ahead and use, because we have Middlesex Community College, Lowell High School, and to go ahead and attract that type of consumer, which is the student, would be a great way to develop the downtown. And Trader Joe's would be all about the mill complexes that people are now living in. Those are our new residences. We all love to go to Market Basket. I know I'm at Market Basket all the time. But at the end of the day, Trader Joe's would be a wonderful option.
I agree. Mary Jo, you have a question for Mr. Bahu?
Mr. Bahu, speaking of College Town, we are all quite aware of the rash of violence that's been taking place specifically in your district, the 18th Middlesex. Beyond, pardon?
Ouch.
Yes, beyond the good work and the hard work the police department is doing, do you have any proposals or ideas to help stop the rash amount of crime that's taking place?
Going on all around us in the 18th Middlesex district, a pizza shop right down the street from my shop was robbed the other night, and they actually had the employees go face down on the ground in their business as people were stealing their money and pointing guns at them. People are feeling like they're shut into their homes. There's shots being fired at homes, on highways. There's a few other robberies happened in the past few nights as well. Yes, there's a rash of violence. And I don't know if I want to send my daughter to school here if I hear that in the news. What would I propose? Firstly, neighborhood policing. I think it's important to go ahead and offer neighborhood policing to people, to people in the city, so they can identify that the neighborhood, that the cops know the people in the neighborhood. I think another thing would be to implement that Bowden Fox bill. I think it's important that we send people to jail and send the message to the youth of the city of Lowell that people are going to go to jail if they keep having illegal guns or if they're shooting guns. And it can't be done in a time when it's a year wait before they go to jail. It has to be done more instantly. So we need to utilize the courts, the sheriff's department, the police department, and the prosecution department to make sure this goes swiftly.
Thank you, Fred. Roddy?
Thank you. I know the public safety is probably one of the most important issues right now. Knocking over 2,000 plus doors. Every citizen that opened a door, and by the way, thank you to the district and opening the doors and talking to them. They're very, very concerned. I will support Chief Taylor and the entire police department in their effort to combat crime. I will also file an amendment to support the ShotSpotter, which the City Council have all be unanimously voted on, to make sure that funding come back so that the Lowell police will have a tool that is very effective to combat crime. The guns that are here in our city are illegal. They're not legal guns. And we're living right next to the land of the free, which is just 15 minutes away. We have to have a deal where
You can finish your thought.
where we can communicate with the next state so that it's a one unification of law.
Tom Zuber, you have a
Can
question?
I about that?
Yeah.
Short stoppers, I'm not sure exactly what that entails, Roddy. And I'm not sure if there's ever been any arrests made with short stoppers, so
Well,
sure what that is.
Yes, ShotSpotter have already in place in Worcester and Boston. When a gun is fired, it instantaneously connects to the cruiser. So without having the citizen to dial 911, the police can arrive at the scene within a minute. We need that. We don't have it. We need that in Lowell. And I'm all for it.
How much does it cost? And
$415,000 in a 3-year period.
Okay, guys, thanks. Tom, you have a question for Roddy Mo?
Yes, Mr. Vaughn. In a 5-year period, 2008 to 2012, nearly 100 people in Lowell died due to opioid use and overdoses. Most of those are male, and most of them are ages 25 to 54, so they're not the usual group that you think of when we're talking about drug overdoses. If you're elected to go to the State House, what's your plan to tackle opioid use and overdoses in your district?
As we said before, when it comes to drugs or any problem we have, whether it's in our city or in Boston, or for that matter, in all of our great city and town, we do have a drug problem. I believe education is probably one of the most important things that we can reach for. We have to have education, not just one time in class. We need to educate our children 195 days, all the way through the entire school year. That's what we have to do, so that they will understand that not to get connected with the drug.
You have another minute. Do you want to use it? Okay.
I agree that drug awareness is something that we should go ahead and offer. I speak, unfortunately, in my business, I get to see a lot of the drug addicts, people that are addicted, and I ask them how they're doing, and sometimes they're doing okay, and other times they're gone for a little while. And I think one of the things that they've shared with me is that we should offer drug awareness a couple of times a year at the schools, and it should be somewhere beginning in the mid-grades, 7th grade, and they do it in October coming into the school year so that we can make them aware of drugs, and also have an awareness program in May before they head out for the summer. And to identify that is a measure that we can take in order to go ahead and make people more aware of drugs. I visited UTEC. UTEC's an awesome place. And it's a no-holds-barred type of place. Feel free to come in. Feel free to utilize our vocational studies. Feel free to utilize what we have here is a safe house to go ahead and play ping pong or play pool. And I think it's one of those places that kids need to know that they can go there and they can get off the street and not be committed to the problems that they're having. So that would be a couple of my thoughts.
Thanks, Fred. I think Tom has a follow-up.
Actually, I follow specifically Mr. Mom. When you talk about teaching in school, drug education 195 days a year, how do you fit that into the time and learning issues that they have in class now, where they're trying to do transition to Common Core curriculum and those types of things? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of time during the school day to fit in a daily drug education. You're talking curriculum or programs, or can you expand on that, please?
Thank you. I know that education is one of the most important people. It's not that we wait until they are in high school to teach us. We can teach them at a younger, from pre-K on to understand about this stuff. We have plenty of the academic to put all this forward, and that would be connected to the superintendent school to make sure that curriculum is in place. Whether it is as simple as, let's understand about drugs. We need to bring the professional into this so that they know how to resolve this issue. My job is to bring resource back to make sure that it's in place.
Brendan?
And I think it's ongoing with that, I spoke about that, teaching in October and teaching in May. I think we do also teach it in health classes. I think that's one way to go ahead and make people more aware of drugs. It's about keeping them from getting started. And also, it's about making sure that this safe house, your safe house is in one of our one down on Cabot Street, and it's important that we have these safe houses for them and some schools that don't want to keep people they said, Greg, what they done, how do you keep the drugs out of here? I said, what do you do? And they said, what they do, Greg, is that people will rat each other out. Yeah, there's drugs coming in this building because they're trying to clean themselves up. So, those are a couple of plans that I would go ahead and try to stay involved with, to try to clear up our
Thank you.
very
Thank you, Fred.
sad problem.
Frank, you have a question for Mr. Bowden?
I do. So, as you know, Lowell has been designated now for a quarter of a century, really, a national park by the federal government and a state historical park by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The city as well has a historic board whose responsibilities include ensuring that store and building facades, in particular in the historic district, are consistent with the historic theme of the city. Lowell Sun recently ran a series of reports on this question. Do you support continued enforcement of these historical codes, or do you think that businesses should be able to make those decisions for themselves? Generally, how would you come down on the tension between historic preservation and business development?
I think the person that runs the Historic Preservation Department identified that you can't hold all these businesses accountable to make this town, this historical town, have the perfect historical facades. So they indicated to the business owners, we're willing to work with you as long as you don't go over the top. We want our city clean. We want our storefronts clean. We want to be attractive to people in the city and to visitors that come into the city. And we want to do this without being a burden on small businesses. So, and I'm a small business, and I've looked at some type of funding and historical stuff like that. And I just said to myself, I don't know that I could have kept it up. But, I try to do as best as I can. We're a brick city, we're a mill city, and to have, the brick storefront in front of my place like I do, that's actually something that I did in 1986, because it was originally a stucco building. So I think if they can afford it, let's offer it. But if they can't afford it, let's try to work with them and just let them know that, we want to work with them, but, we're not going to tie your hands and we're not going to burden you with costs.
Thanks, Fred. Roddy?
Lowell is a gateway city, and I think one of the uniqueness of our city is our history. I would love to make sure that we have some historical that goes with that. If we are able to, again, we talk about funding from the state and also the historical board. I used to be on the board of LOCA, that's going way back in the 90s. It's a lot to see, offer, and this is the uniqueness of the goods of our city, and I hope to keep that moving forward.
Thank you, Roddy. Mary Jo, you have a question for Roddy Mullen?
Roddy, if you are elected, are you going to collect the per diem travel? And if not, would you consider proposing legislation that would eliminate it?
As of right now, I would probably say no.
You would not take it?
I would not.
Would you propose legislation that would eliminate it altogether?
I don't know the full extent of what I have to participate in. I can only answer for myself at this point.
Fred Bowden.
Okay, I think the proposed legislation would be something to have a little discussion with, because the whole idea is you want to go ahead and have support. So if I went in there, if we're really thinking, I hope to be a state rep, and I'm really excited to be able to take the train into Boston, because I'll have that downtime and I won't have to be fighting traffic and looking for a parking spot and such like that. But I know there'll be days that I have to take my car in. But as far as going after the per diem rate, I think that sort of comes into my thought of what the pay structure is for being a state representative. So, I wouldn't be one that we would be trying to tackle on and grabbing onto that, I guess, the $26 per day. But I would also talk to the other state reps and see if they would like to go ahead and start to, have the discussion of removing that from the benefit package per se.
Thanks, Fred. All right, Tom, you have a question for Mr. Bowden?
Mr. Bowden, you're one of the two candidates who's an elected public official on the Great Old Tech School Committee. And I want to ask you about a meeting that occurred a couple of years ago. It's a very heated discussion about the school committee knowing the whereabouts of the school superintendent. And you supported that motion. And during your support of that motion, you said the intention of the article was to find out whether the superintendent was out sick or taking a vacation day. And I quote you directly, not about Are you golfing? Are you doing your makeup? Are you in the hospital? Do you think that's a proper statement for a public official?
No, I think I was caught up in a conversation, and sometimes as we're standing here in a little debate, you get yourself a little worked up. You catch yourself saying things when you don't mean it the way that it's being interpreted. I remember as I was saying it, I was looking at Mike Lindsay, and Mike Lindsay and George O'Hare, who was sitting across the table from me, were just giving me smirks. And I'm like, oh boy, did I make a big mistake on that. So as far as the discussion went, I think it was brought up by a colleague of mine, and it was about, we would like to know if you're out of the building, so if you could just go ahead and inform us, that would be, in our best interest, that way we're not calling the school, and, we're not calling the secretary, not knowing whether you're in or not, and trying to just, get whatever school committee questions we have out of the way. So really, that was what it was all about. And as far as, my comments, I think they were sort of incorrect. And I probably should have said something like, if you're going to be out, if you're home ill, or if there's a personal day that you need to have, maybe it's probably in the best interest of all of us just to report this.
Thanks, Fred. Roddy, do you have anything to say?
I think the question was for Fred, so.
Thank you. Frank, a question for Roddy Baum, please.
Yes, for both candidates too.
Yep.
Ms. Monk, if you are successful next Tuesday and become the state representative from this district, how will you stay in touch with the voters and constituents of this district to make sure that you know what their priorities are and how they feel about issues generally?
Frank, the first thing that I will do, I will open an office right here in my district so that the 18 Middlesex district citizen and all voter can have a chance to come and meet with me and have a conversation with me. And I will continue to service to the best of my ability. And that is to listen to them and will lead.
Well, I think we all know that I own a local convenience store, and I sell newspapers and coffee, and people like to come out there and hang out and tell me what their thoughts are, whether it was yesterday's great pitching performance by, I can't think of Baumgarten. Or if they want to come and talk about the issues of the state government, I would always be available in the mornings for them prior to going to Boston as often as I can. The big deal about me being in the district, I only do things in the district. My ex-wife said I was pretty dull. I golf in the district, I go to church in the district, I go to the market in the district. It's something that has been a part of me all my life. I coach baseball in the district, I go to the parks in the district. So for me to be involved with people in the district has really never been an issue. So I'm sure that I would be able to find out what their needs and wants are and go ahead and discuss them.
Can I ask a follow-up? Absolutely related to that, maybe starting with Mr. Monk. I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, but I think maybe right, that you're going to occasionally confront a decision that you have to make that you think, in your mind, is in the best interests of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that may not be very popular in your district. How do you deal with that? And what would your process be for making that decision?